There's one great question in comic books, and that's how do you introduce a brand new hero? In the wake of DC's Dark Knight's Metal, we got DC's New Age of Heroes, but is it what we were looking for? What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is about DC's New Age of Heroes, what it really means, how it's really been received, and what we have in store for us in the future. So make sure you subscribe to get more content like this every single week. The big thing that I want to talk about when it comes to DC's New Age of Heroes are what the real concept is and what the reception has been inside the comic book community. Overall, I've been really enjoying a lot of the introductory issues, but I do see some issues and downfalls that might be happening with these particular series, simply because they're so new and fresh. One of the big things that you'll notice is that in the back of every single DC comic book for the last several months, you've seen a introductory part of the story. So first off, you got some Damage, you got some Silencer, you get a little bit of Sideways, you got some of the Terrifics, and now we're seeing things like the Unexpected, the Immortal Men, as well as Curse of Brimstone and the new Challengers. So there's all these different stories that are rolling out in the back of DC. DC is putting a huge amount of real estate into these series, but what kind of success have they really been getting? Overall, the Damage comic book sold right around 37,000 copies when it first came out. Then you got the Silencer, which sold around 30,000 copies with issue number 1. Sideways got you around 35,000 copies with issue number 1. And then, of course, the Terrifics is the biggest success and probably one of the best ones you should check out, and that sold around 45,000 copies. But where does this compare to a lot of other comic books in the industry? If you're talking strictly about sales figures, what you're going to see is that it actually debuted worse than things like Venom Inc. Omega, or, other number ones that are coming out that are telling different stories and from different areas. Is it because of a lack of publication? Is it because of a lack of knowledge? Is it just people aren't necessarily interested in these stories? Well, I think it's a combination of a few things. First off, let's take a look at what we know about DC's New Age of Heroes. It was tied into Dark Knight's Metal, however, it was part of the Dark Matter universe, and that was announced back in 2017, like June of 2017, when we actually knew DC's Dark Knight's Metal was going to be coming out, and it was actually on schedule. And since then, various titles have been pushed back no less than 3 times from their release date. Originally, DC's New Age of Heroes was supposed to kick off around October, November with the Immortal Men, and the Immortal Men isn't slated for release until April 11th. So scheduling conflicts between the artists, the writers, as well as the continuation of DC's Metal has really had an impact on the series and their launches overall. The next thing I want to take a look at is the creative teams, and while these books are really sold on their actual artistic prowess, Damage is sold on the back of Tony Daniel, the Silencer was sold on the back of John Romita Jr., Sideways on Kenneth Rocafort, the Terrifics on Ivan Reyes, and then you've got a bunch of other books that are coming out that are sold in similar fashions. The artists get the first billing. They're combined. They're called storytellers along with their writing counterparts. However, we're not necessarily getting the artist that we got at the beginning of the series. When we're talking about Damage has got Tony Daniel, but Tony Daniel was only on the book for the first 3 issues, and by the time we get to issue number 6, which is happening in June, we've gone through 3 more artists that are going to be on that series. John Romita Jr. was on the Silencer before he got replaced with Victor Bogdanovich in issue number 4, which is coming out. Kenneth Rocafort was going to be one of the longest running people for artists, but he does get replaced in issue number 5 and number 6. So the people, the artists that are supposed to be carrying these stories, even the Terrifics, Ivan Reyes is getting replaced by Doc Shanner in issue number 4, but these artist-driven series are no longer being helmed by the artists that they were built on, by the ones they were advertised with. I mean, Jim Lee, who's doing the Immortal Men, only is doing 1 issue, and that's going to be a little bit of an impact on people that are feeling like they might be sold a bill of goods. However, that doesn't mean that I'm sour on DC's New Age of Heroes. The story of Damage, this kind of Red Hulk version inside the DC universe, is a very good one, and he's already interacted with some great characters inside Suicide Squad XL, as well as the most recent issue where he was going toe-to-toe with Wonder Woman, where Wonder Woman said, "This could be one of the strongest people I've ever faced," throwing a little shade at Superman, saying that Damage could possibly be stronger than Superman. You've got a great story like the Terrifics where they're venturing into the dark multiverse. They meet characters like Tom Strong, who calls on them to save the universe, and are ultimately bound together in a very Fantastic Four style book. While it isn't necessarily the Fantastic Four and it's telling its own story, it gives you various elements of exploration, which is a great one. Sideways has been commonly compared with DC's version of Spider-Man, a young teenage hero that gets his powers and has to learn responsibility since it wasn't taught to him by somebody else. And as he kind of ventures through this multiverse, not necessarily right at the beginning, but as he rips open space-time in order to transport himself to various areas, I mean, it's just a really interesting concept, and the exploration is one of my favorites. Overall, I feel like DC New Age of Heroes has a huge amount of potential. The unfortunate thing is that the sales figures aren't necessarily reflecting that. So I'd ask you guys, if you haven't been checking out New Age of Heroes, go go give it a shot. Pick up issue number 1, pick up issue number 2, pick out the ones that you feel are going to be the best for you, because when we're talking about the introduction of new characters and new series, the only way they survive is through sales. You got to pre-order with your comic book shop, you've got to pick them up off the shelf so that way they know to order more. You've got to let them know with your wallet that these are the things that you want to see. And if we're talking about what's coming up in the future, not only do you have Immortal Men, you've got New Challengers, which has unfortunately been reduced to a mini-series, 6 issues in length, which is coming out on April 3rd. And then you've got things like The Unexpected from Steve Orlando and Ryan Sook, which is going to be coming out in June. But overall, these are very interesting concepts. While I am disappointed that the art teams aren't necessarily going to be sticking around quite as long as they need to be, I understand there are production needs inside the comic book universe, but for books that are coming out once a month, it feels like they should have been able to hold on to these superstar artists that they sold the stories on just a little bit longer. However, I'm going to be sticking with the Terrifics, I'm going to be sticking with Sideways, I'm going to keep checking out Damage. The Silencer has kind of gone by the wayside, and of course I'm going to pick up new number 1s for everything that's coming out in the future, so that way I can tell you guys about it and make sure you know whether it's something you should grab or not. But I want to know what you guys are really excited for the rest of DC's New Age of Heroes, what you're excited about, what's currently coming out, and if you have any comments or questions about what's going on, hit me up in the comments down below so that way we can have a conversation about those things. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.